I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of karma. So, we've been talking about this subject off and on for quite a while, and so we're going to talk about city of Seattle and under the guise of criminal justice reform. They've basically their idea is that if we're less harsh with people, if we don't put them in prison as much, or we make it easier for them to get out on bail, or we have no cash bail, that people will commit less crimes and we'll be safer that way because we're being too mean is the idea that they have. And the reality, and several police departments have come out recently, and I was reading, I can't remember which department it was yesterday, it was an article I was reading, and the officer, the chief of police was saying something like, you basically have about 1,000 people that are like the real problem criminals. And even my aunt, who worked as a prison guard for 20 years, confirmed this in a podcast that we did. There's some people that gotta be locked up. You can't reach them. It's just like when you look into the drug problem, the people that are on the street, the homeless people, most of those people got drug problems and they're on the street because the family wrote them off. Because they've lied too much and they've gone back on their word. They've been in and out of rehab, and their actions show that they love drugs and they're not going to stop doing them. And so their families basically disown them, and so they're living off the street. And so the reality is, whatever you tolerate, you invite more of. And so in Seattle, they're trying these criminal justice reforms, which is basically people that should be locked up are being continually let out. And so when you go and you commit a crime and within an hour you've done your paperwork and there's no cash bail, a lot of them they just go right back to where they were and they commit a new crime. Sometimes they get caught in the same day for the same crimes. And it's the soft on crime policies. And so what happens is if you have people on the streets that should be locked up, they're not going to stop committing crimes until they're locked up. And if you're not locking them up, then the crime is going to be really high. It's common sense. Anybody that knows anybody that's in law enforcement, like me personally, obviously I have a family member who worked in a prison for 20 years, because she would see, the same people they get out on parole, and a matter of sometimes days or weeks later, they would violate parole and they'd be right back to where they were. Now, obviously, a lot of time, you go in the prison system, and most people aren't going to want to hire you, and so it makes it hard to get a job, or get a job that pays any kind of decent money because of their criminal record. And other people, that affects where you can live. And if when you do background checks and stuff like that, you don't pass a background check, you're not living in the nice neighborhoods. You're forced to live in the poor neighborhoods where the landlords don't care. As long as you pay your rent on time, they don't care what you're doing. And so people that have no other way to survive, they're going to continue to do what they've always done, which is commit crimes. And so by being lax on crime or soft on crime because you're trying to be nicer to criminals in hopes that they won't commit more crimes, you get crime to skyrocket. And so what's interesting is you've got several consequences of this in Seattle. And according to so Este's got some stories for us. So Amazon, we all know, has a lot of operations in that area, and it's affecting their operations, and so they're moving workers. So Este, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So Spencer Soper and Dina Bass at Yahoo Finance are reporting Amazon moves workers from a Seattle office in crime-hit area. Quoting from the article, Amazon.com is temporarily removing workers from a downtown Seattle office so employees don't have to travel to an area that's seen a spate of shootings, carjackings, and other violent crimes. Given recent incidents near 3rd and Pine, we are providing employees currently at that location with alternative office space elsewhere, an Amazon spokesman said in an email statement. Quote, we are hopeful that conditions will improve and that we will be able to bring employees back to this location when it is safe to do so, end quote. About 1,800 Amazon employees are assigned to the office.
So basically, you got Amazon, who's a very big employer in the state of Washington and here in Seattle, that it's not safe for their workers. And so now the workers are going to different locations. And if you're a landlord and one of your major employers is moving their workers out and the crime is up, it makes it harder to get tenants. And so then what do you have to do? You got to lower your prices. And as you lower your prices, you get lower quality tenants. You have problems with them not paying. You have problems with them destroying your place. You have higher incidence of domestic issues. And if people are scared to go to the neighborhood because you don't lock people up, then this is the result. People want to send their kids to a good school and they want to live in safe neighborhoods and they want to enjoy their lives. Life is hard enough without living in an area where, this is a result of all of this defund the police nonsense. And then you get these, what's interesting is George Soros, under the guise of criminal justice reform, is one of the ones that's helping getting his DAs, people that he backs that have his leftist view of the world, that you got to be softer on crime and be nicer to criminals, and then they'll commit less crime. And so now they're experimenting on our cities with these ideas of being softer on crime. And so what happens is you get the people that you just can't reach, you can't help. They're always going to be criminals. Now they're allowed to stay in the street. And on top of that, they get arrested, they're right back out. And so for them, they're being told that it's okay to commit these. There's no consequences. And so therefore the crime is going up, and all the people that live there, they voted for it. I've got a family that lives there, and every time I talk to them or see them, it's like, we laugh about it, and they're leftists. And they voted for this. And they see the insanity of it, but they keep voting for the same people because they believe in the democratic leftist type of policies. And it's like, hey, you got what you voted for. I like breaking their balls, but hey, it is what it is. So this is the prime office area of Seattle, where the big employers go for the nice office places and space to run their operations. And it's become too dangerous because of the policies.
Well, in terms of office space, I'm moving my office to a new location. And I had a lot of options when choosing where I wanted to go. I chose a safe place, a place where I know that, my building is going to be secure. It's not going to be broken into, or at least I don't think it's going to be. I could have gone for lesser cost, but more risk. But I know that I have, ladies that work for our company, and sometimes they're showing up there before anyone else, and they have to safely make it inside. People are going to look at these places and say, I don't want to do business there. I don't want to start a business there. I don't want to keep my business there. There's going to be some consequences for not enforcing the law in these places. The consequences for the criminals, from a very early age, we learn, don't touch this, don't touch that. Ow, that's hot. And the pain is a consequence. Pain is a wonderful teacher. It's proven that pain is a wonderful teacher.
People do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure. That goes back to, I think it was Aristotle that noticed that, made that observation.
And what we're doing is we're taking away the pain. We're taking away the consequences for the crimes committed. There's no way this works.